In other words, things will happen and then Moshiach will come. You're right. Again, what will happen, even the Rambam says, it's not clear. But, the fact that it will happen is 100% clear.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Now, the Rambam addresses something which everyone probably thought of. What about the so-called messiahs declared by other nations? And here, I'd like to read something to you, because the Rambam puts it together so beautifully. He says as follows.
What are you reading from?
Okay, I think I brought it here. I don't think I brought it here. No, but I'll read it to you and I'll translate.
No, could you tell me what?
Sure. Shoftim, Hilchas Malachim, Perek Yudam. Shoftim, Hilchas Malachim, Perek Yudam. Af Yeshua HaNotzri. Shedima Sheyeh Mashiach. V'nera B'cheti. Okay? Yeshu. First of all, says the Rambam, Kvanit Nabeh Bo Daniel. Daniel already prophesied that this would happen, that there would be a Mashiach, a false Mashiach of the Goyim. Now, and what is he saying, Daniel? Uvnei Paritze Amcha Yinasu Lahamid Chazon V'nikshal. He will fail. Now, the Rambam says, how did Jesus fail? Now, what does he say? Shekol HaNeviim Divru Mashiach Goel. Everyone understands and knows and spoke about the Mashiach who will redeem. Goel Yisrael, redeem Israel. Moshiach, and save them. Umekabetz nitchehem, and gather the exiles. Umechazek mitzvotam, and bring us to mitzvahs. V'zeh, Yeshu, Goram la'abed Yisrael b'cherev, killings, slaughter, whatever you want to call them. Ulefazer shevatam, exiles everywhere. Ulahashpilam, humiliation. Ulaklif Torah, they replaced our Torah. Ulahatot, lo ba'olam lavod Elohak mi baladesh. In other words, he brought the exact opposite. He brought death, he brought destruction, he brought avodah zarah, etc. By the way, Rambam also says this, al shalzeh hayishmaeli, the Messiah of the Muslims. Same thing, death and destruction. That's not what Mashiach is going to bring. Mashiach is going to bring salvation. Mashiach is going to bring peace. Mashiach is going to bring good things to not only Am Yisrael, but to the entire world. Now, the characteristics of Mashiach. We said before, we're talking about Limud Torah, but the Rambam makes it clear. Limud Torah, learning of Torah, kipshutan. He will not come and say, wow, I discovered some new invention, and this thing means something else. Kipshutan. In other words, he will stick with the Masoret of the last 5,000 years, and he will stick to that. So it would not be about there is something new here, or there is something that you never knew before. That's one thing. He will have to be Beit David. He will have to osek the mitzvot. He has to be personally observant. V'yakuf kol Yisrael l'chba l'chazek. He will ensure that the Jewish people come back to Torah and mitzvahs. Another thing is that in itself will make Mashiach, even if he's not successful, but at that point, b'cheskat Mashiach, bringing back Torah and mitzvahs, Beit David, Lomed Torah, and also personally observant. When we look at events today, there is no doubt about it that we cannot ignore in any realm that things today are historically novel and different from any other time in history. First, the fact that there is kibbutz galuyot. 2, the fact that there's Jewish sovereignty in Eretz Yisrael. 3, the fact that the center of Judaism is now in Eretz Yisrael, spiritually, clearly, but if the numbers are correct, probably the majority of Jews already live in Eretz Yisrael. Now, how will things take place? It's not clear, completely not clear. But the Rishonim, as early as 1,000 years ago, said things which are so powerful that they must be looked at again today. And indeed, so much of what we pray, so much of what we sing during the Shabbat or during the prayers contains very strong messages. I bring you one from Dunash ben Levant, who was a piyut, who was a great commentator on the Torah. And what does he say? He says, Droch pura b'toch batzra v'gam bavel asher gavra nitot tzarai ba'af ve'evra shma koli b'yomeka. Now, the commentators of Nissen Sherman, others, talk about 2 powers. Bavel, Edom. Bavel is considered Islam. Edom is considered Christianity. This is something which is a theme throughout the Mefarshim, throughout Chazal. Now we understand the words here. Again, this is I'm bringing down. I'm not making this up. Droch pura, tread the press, b'toch batzra, in Basra. Basra is considered not so much Iraq, but Iran. The Gam Bavel Asher Gavra. The commentators on this say as follows. There will come a time where Islam will overcome Christianity. Where Islam will defeat Christianity. And will bring the world from polytheism, the belief in many gods, to monotheism, the belief in one God. The Rambam says that indeed the Muslims believe in one God. What kind of God is a different story, but they believe in one God. And the commentators say that the Christians will run to the Muslims and say, wait a minute, why are you attacking us? Why are you against us? We have a common enemy, the Jews. And the Muslims will ignore that. Again, we have eyes. We see the Muslim takeover all over the world. In Europe, it's clear. In America, it's clear. In Asia, it's clear. In Africa, it's clear. Again, I'm telling you what I've seen and read, and I'm giving you sources. If we don't have eyes, if we shut our eyes, we see nothing. If we don't have ears, we hear nothing.
But we want to hear the truth, not just to take on it.
Again?
Maybe you think it'll happen in 10 years.
No, I didn't give you, see, that's the point. I did not give a time frame. I don't know. No one knows. I'm giving a process. There's a difference. There's a process. When the process began, it could have been when the Gra told his Talmidim to come to Eretz Yisrael, which was hundreds of years ago, about 300 years ago. It could have been 150 years ago. It could have been 5 years ago. But there is a process.
But you said the Muslims will ignore the Christians. No, they're not. They're prototyping Jews, so I don't get that.
Again, what we have today, we have a situation of Islam spreading and taking over what were Muslim communities. Let me just wrap things up here. The question now becomes, knowing this, how do we respond? How do we respond? We're regular people. We go to work every day. We have daily lives. How do we respond? Let's look at number 4. Rav Shlomo Kluger, from the Sefer Avodah Avoda. Koshi HaGolut ein matchil, ela lachar zman tzmichat hagula. מגודל הבשורות שיעשו לבני ישראל באחרית הימים קודם ביאת המשיח. מזה לבד יש להכיר זמן התנותסות אור של משיח. Rav Shlomo Kluger understood that the world events, especially as it happens to Jews and around the Jewish people, are to be understood in that God is bringing us from one place to another place. Again, the historical developments were that 70 years ago there were less than 600,000 people in this country, and there were close to 4 million in Poland. Today there is no one in Poland, and there is nearly 6 million Jews here.
When did he write this?
He wrote this before.
When did he live?
He lived approximately 100 years ago. In other words, what we're seeing here is we're seeing that a process of biur chametz, a process of removing things from one area, elimination of communities, the transfer of communities is taking place, which although not unprecedented, because after all, the entire Inquisition was a process of the elimination of Spain and Portugal and much of Europe, but it's something that's happening now in addition to the building up of the land. So, the question is, what do we do? And now, one of the things that the Mefarshim say that was required, and I'm referring to the Radak especially, is emunah. The way to prepare for the Mashiach is emunah. Emunah is a big word which includes tshuva, which includes emet. Lev tahor. The idea of lev tahor is to act honestly with God, honestly with your fellow men. And indeed, one of the things that we see in the Metzudat David on Tehillim is that someone with a lev tahor, a Baal Levav, who aspires to lev tahor, will understand and will perceive in the coming of the Mashiach. The third thing is tefillah, and that includes simcha in the Torah and the mitzvah. About 1,000 years ago, I would say around 1100, there was a huge debate among many of the Rishonim. The feeling was that after 1,000-year exile, the exile would end, and we would come back to Eretz Israel. And when that didn't happen, there was a tremendous disappointment, but there was also soul search. Why didn't the Moshiach come? And the Ari HaKadosh brings down that a major reason that the Moshiach did not come was we were not faithful and sincere in our prayers. We prayed 27 minute chakras. We ran through whatever. Everyone was in a hurry when it came to davening, and no one was in a hurry when it came to something else. And the fact that we had opportunities to speak to God, and we rejected it, it was a major reason why God said, you are not ready for it. Okay. The last thing is, and this is where I end, is Shabbat. Shabbat, the Mefarshim say, the Rishonim and the Achronim and Chazal say, is a key element in bringing the Geula. Indeed, we say this all the time. We say in Lachot Dodi, we say, Hit'ori, Hit'ori, Hitnari Ne'ofakumi. The Shabbat the Malka, shake yourself from your dust and come and bring us up. I want to thank you very much for coming. And Bezrat Hashem, through our learning and through our mitzvahs, we will bring Mashiach from here. Amen.